Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon, one of the Career Readiness Consultants with the Kent Intermediate School District. And I welcome Caitlin Hoop. She's the general manager of a fine restaurant here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you. Hi.
So one of the things we love to start with when we have these career chats, a lot of young people like to know, when you were 16, did you think you'd grow up to be a restaurant manager, the general manager at that? Tell us about those early days.
No, I did not. When I was 16, I think I was like every other 16-year-old girl in the early 2000s who wanted to be a marine biologist. For some reason, there was always a fascination with dolphins and things like that. And I was pretty like science focused in school. But I also, did theater, choir, and marching band and things like that. But I wasn't a person who even worked as a server or a host when I was in high school. It wasn't really until I was in college that I wanted a job when I was on campus, when I was at Grand Valley, and always drank coffee every morning. And I figured out a way to get free coffee was to become a barista. So I started working on campus at Grand Valley as a barista, and then kind of did that all throughout college. And then my degree also wasn't in hospitality. It was in anthropology. But then I realized after graduation, so many of my classmates were working in restaurants and things like that. And it was something that I had grown to love to do, to go out for a drink or food with friends and things like that. And I came to realize the connection of culture and anthropology and how that relates to food and dining out and restaurants and the whole culture of restaurants and bars and everything like that. And so then I stayed being a barista after I graduated college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it was something I enjoyed. And then worked in that for a while, and then eventually made the transition over to restaurants and worked in support roles and then as a server. But I still thought that I wanted to go back to school for whether it be a PhD or a master's degree in some sort of anthropology and food related area. So I went to NYU and moved to New York and got a master's in food studies. So more in like food history and food anthropology, food and gender. Those are the topics that I studied. And there kind of also jumped feet first into working in restaurants and did that while I was in grad school. And then I just, I loved it before I moved to New York, and I just fell in love with it even more because it's such a hub of restaurants. And I saw that there was real growth potential. And I was very fortunate enough to have leaders among me when I was a server in New York that were women in leadership roles and who wanted to foster my growth and saw great potential. And that was kind of a big first for me. And so I moved my way up into a management role in New York and just fell in love. And it was kind of the best of all the worlds of, I got to educate my team, and I got to oversee a service, and I got to make these great, wonderful like connections and build great guest experiences for people who came in and dined. And then I got to foster my own growth and move up. And then life happened, and I decided to move back here to Grand Rapids, which is where I'm from, and kind of took a step back from management because, I kind of jumped in a little too hard at first and got a little burnt out. And so went back to serving, bartending, and things like that. But then just, after the pandemic kind of changed, like was on an uptick, I guess you could say, I kind of got the itch again to be a manager. It's my calling. It's what I love to do. And so I became the general manager here in July of 2021. And so I'm here, the general manager of the restaurant inside the JW Marriott. It is a French bistro called Margot. And I'm also responsible for running not only the restaurant, but also all of room service. And then in the summer, we have a patio, so a whole entire outdoor seating aspect as well. And then our like bar lounge area. So yeah.
Sorry about that. So much I want to dig into. First, let's go back to high school because there's so many things I want to dig into, but the whole interest in anthropology, you know, that even at a level that you didn't even know. And I
Yeah.
love that you got a master's degree in food studies. I didn't even know that existed. So that's, first of all, a lot of us on the call are probably like, that's awesome. Tell us more. What do you think about that you hadn't been a server even? Did you have any jobs in high school?
I did not. Well, let me take that back. I had jobs during the summer. So my very first job, fun and embarrassing fact, I volunteered a lot when I was in high school. And so the summers between my like sophomore and junior year of high school, and then every summer after that, I was a volunteer at the John Ball Zoo. And then the summer in between my junior and senior year, I was the mascot of the John Ball Zoo. That was
So
my
yeah,
very first paying job. I got to
but
dress up as a bunny, and I had
love it.
like, 10 feet that I could walk because I couldn't be within view of any of the actual animals. So that was my very first job.
And I think what's so interesting is you ended up calling this really a calling that,
Mhm.
providing that really those great guest experiences and being able to teach your staff and educate them. There's so much to this that I think a lot of people don't understand. And that's why I'm so excited to have you. When
Mhm.
we start to think about transferable skills, because some of the guidance counselors we have on the call today or the Zoom, they might meet a young Caitlin who's very bright, interested in science, thinking marine biology. What are some of those traits that you think you had even exhibiting then that might have, if looking back, would they have been able to direct you towards the hospitality industry, or is that just part of your journey, do you think?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think I wanted to, even when I first started out in college, changed my major a million times because I truly didn't know what I wanted. And I thought I had to do a certain thing because, I was an honors kid and I was in honors college in Grand Valley. But even when I was in high school, I always loved to do for theater. I was never the person on stage. I was always the stage manager or the person behind the scenes and kind of like helping to shine a light on everybody else. And like, I was very organized and, could multitask and stay focused and cool, calm, level-headed, all the above. And those are skills that I use to this day. Even when I'm hiring other managers or other people on my team, I always want the person who is not necessarily the person who is doing the job for the gold star or for their name on a plaque or to be winning some award, but because they want to support their team and make their team better every day. So I'm realizing more things that I did in high school. It's like, oh yeah, that was there all along.
Exactly. You maybe weren't clued into how it was all coming together. And I love the fact that you wanted free coffee and
Yep.
that's what got you to be a barista. I mean, that's so cool.
Yep.
So you went off to college, you got your degree in anthropology, you're figuring it out, you start working in restaurants. So tell us about, because a lot of young people like to know these transitions. Like, how did you decide, I'm going to go to New York, I'm going to get a master's degree? Like, what was some of the thought process around there that might be helpful to you?
So when I graduated my undergrad, the next logical step would have been to get my PhD in anthropology. And I applied, I went through the whole process interviewing, but it was also around the time when, colleges weren't getting a lot of funding for PhD candidates. And so I did not get accepted. And so I kind of like had to take a step back and reevaluate. It's like, okay, what am I doing? Do I enjoy what I'm doing? What is the next logical step? And moving to New York was always something I wanted to do. My mom's side of the family is from New York State and like New Jersey area. And so a couple of my friends had also moved there, and it was just, I wanted to see what was outside of just Grand Rapids, and I wanted to explore another city. And I knew that my way there would be, I mean, working in restaurants is a very transferable skill. And my foot in the door would be, okay, I'm going to grad school, I'm getting my master's degree that I really want to do, but then I can also do, like, where can I go that I can do the best of both things? Because I don't think I'd fully admitted to myself at that point, like, this is something that is my career, and working in restaurants is something that I love. And, you know, that's great. Like, it's not necessarily, I feel like sometimes people would assume, even when I was a server or support staff, of making that assumption of, oh, well, what are you going to do next? Or what are you going to do when you grow up? Or what are you going to do outside of school? And being able to say, like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I love, and there is such growth and potential. And even working in a place now that is like a hotel, there's growth from, a server to a floor manager to a general manager to a food and beverage director to, the AGM, or, assistant general manager of the hotel. The options are endless. So.
Yeah, I think you bring up such a good point, especially as we're working with young people. If we're a parent or a school counselor, we have to be aware of our own biases and what do we think about certain jobs. Like you said, you get that kind of feedback a lot, like that's not a real career. And that's why we're thrilled to have this little series of hospitality, because it's like, these are full-time big people jobs that run these beautiful properties, and to do it well, so we all have those good guest experiences. And I love hearing the passion that so many of our hospitality people have shown us through these. We had a general manager of housekeeping, and just his love for serving. So when you're in New York and you have these, really, like you say, just a hotbed of fabulous culture and on food and stuff, what are just some takeaways from that time in your life? Why was part of that journey so important for you?
I think it was kind of where it cemented the fact that, like, being in the industry, like being in the restaurant industry, is like you're in the hospitality industry, and being around so many people who shared the same goals and the same mentality of, like, wanting to create these great guest experiences. And, like, that was like what we loved to do every day. And just being around all the same energy of this group of people was just, like, ignited it. Like, that was it for me. And because there's so many people who, everyone's always hustling and moving and, like, trying to, find the next best thing, but it is a commonality between everyone. Like, everyone eats, everyone in New York, everyone goes out to eat because your apartments are not big enough to do anything else. So getting to create those memorable experiences when people have, 20,000 restaurants to choose from. And the thing that stands out was making them feel welcome and feel at home, and that you're the person in the place that they want to celebrate, an anniversary, a birthday, or a job promotion, or any big or small thing. So.
Yeah, that's great. I worked in hospitality a little bit, and that's really resonating with me for sure, when you get to be part of those events, or making someone feel welcome and special. What are some of those, you mentioned a few of them earlier, but when you look at your job now, and you can see it now looking back, but for a young person who's thinking about, wow, I never thought about this as a career, what are some of those qualities, besides, like, caring about people, that you think would be good to make a restaurant manager?
I would say someone who is, I have this, like, breakdown of percentages of when I'm hiring someone, whether it be for server assistant, host, the 49% of a job is, like, the nuts and bolts, the mechanics. I could teach anyone how to hold a tray, how to pour a glass of wine, how to open a bottle of wine, and how to, seat a guest, how to answer the phone, what's the correct verbiage. But that 51% of the job, I can't teach you. It's your personality, your, like, willingness to be hospitable and warm, and passion to create those small moments, and your drive and, attention to detail. It's those things that, given the, like, makeup of that, if someone, has a passion for this industry and is willing to put in the time and work hard and genuinely wants to do it to, like, be hospitable to others and support others in that endeavor, and are somewhat organized, or at least know their weaknesses and be able to work with someone who is more organized, then I think it's a job that if you're not afraid to be on your feet for long hours, and you like the hustle and bustle and you like to move and, are able to pivot on a moment's notice because, things happen in a restaurant that are out of our control on a day-to-day basis, then I think it's a job for a lot of people, and a lot of people may not even realize it.
Yeah, I think you bring a lot of good personality traits that you just kind of mentioned, that fast pace, like to be on your feet, because there's a lot of people who just can't imagine sitting down all day, right?
Mhm.
So, and just having that good attitude, it sounds like, is really important.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that the teachers try to communicate in high school are things like soft skills, when we talk about, teamwork and critical thinking and
Mhm.
being punctual, even just having good work
Yeah.
ethic. Like you said, you could teach them the
Mhm.
skills, but
Yeah.
yeah, we have to make those connections. What would you say when you think about teamwork or collaboration within the
Mhm.
hospitality industry? What would you like to say to these young people and or
So
their educators?
I would say that, I mean, being a server or bartender, sometimes people can assume that it is a very solitary job. You are responsible for the money that you make. And that's the thing that some people either love it or hate it, because you are the one who holds all the power in your hands. If, depending on how much you make in tips that evening. But it is very much still a team sport because you are there to support all the rest of your coworkers on the floor with you. And also, in terms of a manager, like I don't show up every day because I want the accolade or the gold star of being that I'm the general manager. I'm the coach of the team of they're the ones who will achieve greatness, and they're the ones that I want to do well every day and be set up for success and do everything in my power to make sure that they are set up for success for a great evening, because it's can be kind of a domino effect where if one area of the restaurant is kind of falling behind or lagging, then it just catapults everything else and it directly affects everyone. And kind of reminding them to look at the big picture of, this is a team sport and we're all in it for the same goal, and to make sure that the guest has a great experience, and we all play a role in that from the moment they walk in the door to the moment they leave the restaurant.
Yeah, I love your leadership philosophies, that you're coaching them and setting them up to be the stars that
Mhm.
you're supporting. I love that. When you look at your education, having that degree in anthropology and then a master's in food science, what are some ways that the education paid off for you in this career?
I would say anthropology, definitely, in terms of exposing myself to different cultures and different groups of people, and even how people look at food and how, you know how they break bread together and how they dine, and kind of even in the master's program of like how that has changed throughout the decades, and how historically, you know why people dine out, and going out to bars, what is their like the social aspects and the social norms and expectations, and it kind of just gave me an insider knowledge of being able to read people a little bit better and being able to understand and come at it from their side of you know what they expect from a dining experience, why they're dining out, and kind of their thought process of their relationship with the experience.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that that's all come together for you. Obviously, for young people who are considering hospitality, what are some other ways that people become a general manager? Obviously, you went an education route and then you had lots of practical experience in
Mhm.
restaurants and bars when you were in New York. Is that the way a lot of people get there, is going through the ranks and learning the skills? Do you have to get a degree in hospitality, food at
I
some
would
level?
say no, you don't have to get a degree in hospitality. And it's a good mix. So myself, I went the route of like getting degrees and not what I'm doing today, but here I am. But I also, my assistant general manager, he just, worked his way up from working as a host and then a server and then a lead server in various restaurants, and then was a bartender, then, floor man. Like, he just worked his way up through the ranks in various establishments. And, even in the hotel here itself, we've had people who, started out in housekeeping as a laundry attendant, and then, just had a thirst for and passion for this, industry, and just kind of worked their way up, and then ended up being the general manager of a hotel. And so there's a lot to be said for practical knowledge and that hands-on experience that I don't think people necessarily get in a classroom all the time. And, I think that there's not just one way you can get from A to B so many different ways. It's not a cut in stone, like you have to go to school and then you have to do this, and then you have to do that. This is an industry that sometimes I've called it, or friends like, it's the island of misfit toys, and like we welcome everybody. Like, we have so much fun, and we all are doing this because we love it. And it's not the easiest job. Sometimes we have to work holidays and we work at night, and so it's not something that a lot of people assume that is a like set in stone career, but we're all in it because we love it. And the money is a nice perk, but there are many ways to get into management here. And I think a big part of it is that hands-on experience and kind of working in all areas before you become a manager, because then it helps you better understand the big picture.
Yeah, which you bring up a good point. I'd love to hear some of your favorite parts of your job then. Maybe a client story or customer story, and then the part that is not so great. Maybe you want young people to have a reality check about, just so they know what they're getting into.
Yeah. So I would say one of my favorite parts of the job is just exposure to different parts of the industry that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn from. Before I worked here, I was able to work at a restaurant that had over 100 wines by the glass, and it just totally expanded my knowledge with wine. And I never would have had that kind of exposure or opportunity to learn that much hands-on knowledge of all these different types of wines and how they tasted. And it's knowledge that has built a foundation for me ever since. And there are the perks of this industry is a small industry, and we're very much a community, and we're like very much a family, especially here in Grand Rapids. It's a little smaller. And so, you have friends everywhere in every restaurant, and we like to take care of each other, and we like to show that hospitality to each other because, we work hard. But then that would probably be one of the cons, is that, the hours can be very long, and sometimes, you have to work on holidays and working on weekends, and your weekend is sometimes a Monday, Tuesday, which, when you have to run errands and go grocery shopping, it's great because no one else is doing that. But it's an adjustment for that work-life balance of having, not a 9-to-5 job that everyone else presumes to have a career you have to have. So.
Thank you for sharing that. When you look at your career moving forward, obviously you're a general manager position. That's so fantastic. You're pretty young to have something like that going on already, Caitlin. So where do you even see the next season of your life? Are you just really going to celebrate where you are now and just see where it takes you? But 31 is pretty young, isn't it, to be doing what you're doing?
Yeah. I would say that, it's still very much I have struggled even in my 20s. And I think it's something that in this day and age too, because so much is on social media, of struggling a little bit with imposter syndrome and kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop. And so to finally just realize nope, I've earned where I am, and I am very good at my job, kind of just enjoying that and enjoying this stage of where I am and just making the restaurant better every day. Way down the road, I would love to, grow even more within this company that I'm with, and, get to oversee more food and beverage outlets and things like that. if opportunities arise, but I really love where I am right now. So
No, that's great. That's great. And I guess just for any young person that's watching this and maybe didn't know what imposter syndrome is, share what that is. And I think that's really important for young people to know. So thank you for mentioning that because that's real. So help just educate young people what that is real quickly.
yeah. So to me, kind of imposter syndrome is thinking that like you have somehow pulled the wool over everyone's eyes and you got to where you are by sheer luck. And it's something that I think a lot of women deal with. And, you know, I have been very fortunate to have a lot of women in leadership positions above me and who have championed me and cheerleaded me on, and kind of reminded me like, no, you do deserve a seat at the table and you have worked very hard to be where you're at. And, you know, I read a statistic once that women will apply for a job if they're 110% qualified for it. A man will apply for a job if he's 60% qualified for it. And so I think that's a big thing, like, you know, making sure like I was believing in myself that I was qualified for this job and reminding myself that I am very good at my job. And I think that's things that, you know, people struggle with today, like feeling that, you know, what you see is what you get, and you are incredibly qualified and a million opportunities are available to you if you work really hard and trust in your instincts, that you're there because you're very good and very talented. And yeah.
I love that you've learned that at such a young age. That's fantastic, honestly. And I think the other really great thing, having worked in hospitality myself for a while, is that you have regulars.
Yep.
Can you, do you have regulars? And maybe tell young people what that is, but is that, I feel like is a perk of your industry, no?
Yes. So regulars are great. In the hotel, it's a little different because we have what I would call temporary regulars. And we have people who are on business who come once a month, once every 2 months and travel and then stay at the hotel. But I mean, I have regulars, people who come in on a regular basis and dine, you know, in previous restaurants that I've worked at. I even still have regulars when I worked at a Starbucks when I was fresh out of college, that if I ran into them on the street, like we would chat. Like you see the same people every day and you kind of become a part of their lives. And so you learn little things about them, like their birthday, their children's names, you know, when they celebrate little moments and, you know, remembering their coffee order and all those little things, like getting to be a part of their lives. And when they get to celebrate the good things, but then also being there, you know, if they had a crappy day at work and just want to come and sit at the bar and have a glass of wine, and being that constant like person for them, it, you know, I've made lifelong friends out of regulars of mine.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a joy,
Mhm.
having been in that business myself. Time's up already, Caitlin. That went fast, didn't it? So why don't you, in our last minute, just kind of share a final word of wisdom for young people who are watching this, trying to figure out what direction they should go. What's just a lesson learned that you could share with them?
I would say if there's something that you're passionate about, just go for it. And also it's okay to change your mind. It is okay to, you know, think that you have this path. And if you realize you got halfway down it and it's not what you wanted, it's okay to turn around. You don't, and also, you know, change your major, change it 7 times, change it 12. Find something that you're truly passionate about and that you love to do. And I mean, you know, work hard to get there. Not everything is going to be easy, but you should have fun while you do it.
Yeah, and I think hearing your story too, that don't let anyone minimize something that you love as maybe that is not worthy of you because you're an honor student or you're bright. That hospitality is a wonderful industry that we get to provide these wonderful experiences. So I love that you shared that today. That's so great. Caitlin, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, of course. It was my pleasure.
All right. Thanks, everybody.